What is going on, everybody? My name is Kieran Hannon, and today I am reviewing the brand new album from Sir Paul McCartney himself, Egypt Station. Egypt Station is the 18th studio album by British singer-songwriter, musical legend, pop culture icon, multi-instrumentalist, composer, and fucking Beatle, Paul McCartney. So from 1957 until now, not only has the music that the Beatles made in the 60s remained relevant, but Paul McCartney as a solo artist has continued to push on, create music that is both popular and of a decent quality. 61 years into his career, can he still do that with this new album? Remarkably, despite having absolutely nothing to prove, he still finds the passion and the dedication to go out and put out another, to be honest, pretty great project. 18 albums in, post-Beatles. So diving into the track listing, we start off with a 42-second instrumental opener. Just gives us a little flavour to kind of dive into the album, where we get the track I Don't Know. This is just a gorgeous little melancholy effort from McCartney. And in this track, Paul is basically singing about his own vulnerability and his own uncertainty. And I gotta say, while I feel like as Paul has aged, his voice may not be, as pitch perfect, always, perfectly on point. But I feel like it's grown so much in character, his kind of frail nature of his voice, which, is to be expected as a man who is, approaching 80, has been working as hard and as long as he has. The fragility of his voice really adds to this song, where he sings about how uncertain he is about the future and everything surrounding it. I feel like it is honestly a song that is made better for coming out at this point in Paul McCartney's career, even though you're probably listening to it thinking, God, what does Paul McCartney have to be unsure about? He's Paul McCartney. And to be honest, a lot of this stuff seems like Paul is singing, he says that he's singing about himself, but it feels like it is almost better coming from Paul writing from someone else's perspective, or even as a perspective as a younger person. And with a lot of the themes that keep coming up on this album, that point will, come true. It is kind of better to see Paul writing from someone else's eyes, because it's not always something that feels like, this is how a 76-year-old Paul McCartney feels. It's like Paul saying, this is how a 20 or 30-year-old me felt at the time. Now, sometimes it's like, yeah, Paul is definitely singing about Paul now, but sometimes Paul is singing about Paul back then. I feel like the melancholy nature of this song really transitions perfectly into the next track, the much more vibrant and upbeat Come On To Me. This song is an absolute riot, for sure. Like I said, this track provides a much more upbeat atmosphere, just following its much more somber lead. Paul talks about a love affair through the perspective of his youth. And like I said, these themes of love, lust, and sex do come up again throughout the album, and for the most part, he avoids making it creepy. He kind of knows, just how far to go with it, because like I said, it's kind of weird to hear a 76-year-old man, despite being Paul McCartney, and despite at one point, you could see Paul McCartney being, a little crazy, but you're a 76-year-old man. So he goes just far enough when dealing with these topics that it's not creepy. For the most part, there is one track that I kind of don't like that I will get into, but that's later on in the track listing. This track is a absolute toe tapper. I just cannot not get sucked into the rhythm and the tone and just the flow of this song. It has an energy to it that is so captivating. And similar to a song like Hey Jude, there is a big point toward the end of the song where it breaks down, and you just can't not sing along to this song. Trust me, go listen to this song, put on some headphones, full volume, try not to sing along by the end of this song. It's damn near impossible. The next song, Happy With You, is a much slower acoustic ballad type song from McCartney, similar in the vein to a song like Blackbird, where it's really just like this acoustic little guitar is really just, propping up Paul's voice, and you're just listening to what he has to say, and the way he weaves his words together is just so captivating, it's so mesmerizing. You can't just not listen to it. It's something that Paul had obviously back in the 60s, and now all this time later he's still doing it better than almost anyone in the music business today. Paul's singing about how he used to get stoned, he used to get wasted. These days he doesn't, because he's happy. He's found this fulfillment in his life. This is obviously, about Paul McCartney's wife, and he was singing that, he stopped smoking weed and drinking and all of these things, because we know he was a little party animal back in his day, but nowadays it's like, I've kids and grandkids and I want to be a role model. And he's also just, happy with his wife. He's got things to do. He's a busy man, where maybe back in the ye old day he had a lot more time to just sit around and kind of waste time. Now, like I said, those topics of sex and lust and all do come up, throughout the album, but there is one song, one of the singles from this album, For You, where, oh god, it was the only single from this album that I had actually heard going into it. So I was expecting to hate this album. Now obviously this is the only track that I don't at least think has some merit. Paul just singing about how he just wants to fuck you. No, Paul, come on. Yeah, this song just really is, it just seems so try-hard and way too on the nose, and this is him trying to, prove I could still put out a radio hit. Look, Paul, you've nothing to prove. Just go out and make the music you make. And look, I don't even want to spend too much time dwelling on Fuck You. It's just Paul trying to, make that radio hit and say, oh, look how hip I am with the kids. And going into this album, knowing that this was the only song I had heard, I thought this was going to be really try hard. Paul being, oh, look at me, I'm still young, I can make popular music. And that song, Fuck You, it's sonically not even, unpleasant. It's just the themes and the nature, the tone of the song that really just makes me uncomfortable listening to it, to be quite honest. But no, to be honest, for the rest of the track listing, Paul sticks to what Paul does. And he has nothing to prove. I can't stress that enough. It's Paul McCartney. He's a Beatle. He is the Beatle in a lot of people's eyes, myself included. Look, you could debate George Harrison, Paul McCartney, but the fact is there is a debate there. The Beatles were as popular, as groundbreaking and revolutionary as they were for a reason. There was a reason their music back then holds up now. You could still listen to Sgt. Pepper's, and it's still a breathtaking album. It's still one of the best albums ears can hear. And Paul McCartney, for the most part, shows why he was such a big part of that, and he puts out a decent record, one of the strongest pop singer-ish, songwriter-ish, because it's not a full singer-songwriter album, in 2018. Paul McCartney's got talent, charisma, character, and he's proven that, he's got consistency too. A lot of consistency, because 60 years into your career, yeah, that's a lot of consistency. So Paul McCartney's Egypt Station, 8 out of 10. So that was my review of Egypt Station. Did you listen to the album? What did you think? As always, let me know in the comments. We'll have a little discussion about it, maybe. Hopefully. What do you guys want me to review next? Like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't. Follow me on Twitter, easiest way to keep up with me, and if you've got any suggestions, any recommendations, any constructive criticism, Twitter or the comments, I'm going to respond to everything, because I have the time on my hands to respond. So yeah, if you want to request anything, you want to suggest anything, or just leave a little bit of constructive criticism, comments or Twitter, thanks guys, see ya.